our city manager with the knowledge that he has the consent of the council to provide recommendations. And now if he's overworked, and if that requires him to spend more time, then I hope he would feel enabled to come back to the council and say, yeah, you know, I have reviewed some things. There are some things which I do feel concerned over, and I do need more time and resources. And he would feel comfortable to come to the council, and at that point, we can then decide what to do. If we then decide at that point he is spending too much time, then fine, we'll pull him off. If we feel that his concerns are warranted, then we as the council have the authority to apply more resources for him to help resolve those concerns. All this is doing is allowing our city manager a voice to express any concerns, if there are any, with this entity from which we have a very high interest in succeeding. That's all. And so to address that, I agree. I mean, it can take a lot of time, but he needs to be able to come to us and say that, and we should be able to address it.
If you look at Mark's schedule now, his time, there's not even a minute in the day he follows city meetings. Only a small bit. He works long hours, he spends his weekends. I just don't see, Mark will do what you're asking him to. And I respect him for that. But being as the mayor, I've seen a lot of things Mark does. You know, I don't know how he has time to do it all.
I agree with you. He is very busy. I mean, if that's the case, we should provide him this
for the council to place this burden on him this time, which is unfair to Mark. Period.
It will only be a burden if there's something that is of concern that needs to be addressed. If there is nothing of concern that needs to be addressed, it won't be a burden.
I just don't know how he effectively, even with his background experiences, effectively to go over there and ask him what you're trying to ask him to do. He does not have the time to do it.
And no one's asking him for him to go over there again, if this is something he's presented. And personally, I'm at the point where if he does feel like he is taxed for his time, I can't even do this, then I have absolutely no problem coming next month with the request that we provide him more resources. Because I feel this is important to know. That we shouldn't be bound in our limitations to help this entity succeed because we don't have enough resources to provide that help. And if Mark's overly taxed to do that, fine. He can come to us and say, I don't have enough time to do this, great. What will it take for you to have enough time?
Well, if you're going to do that, you might as well call a spade and say instead is authorized to, he's required to. That's what
Required to do that, I don't understand.
Is required to review all financial information, budgetary.
Very intentionally did not include that language because this is not a requirement.
Well, looks to me like it is.
If it helps, I'll put in amendments to say this is not a requirement.
I don't want to get Mark involved in this.
I've spoken with Mark with this. I mean, we've had phone calls. He was very concerned when he saw this resolution about being thrown in the fray. That just, that in me instilled more of an urgency that his concerns weren't necessarily based on time. His concerns that this is a hot topic. So we ask ourselves, why is this even a hot topic in the first place?
Well, it's because the management and board are on the same page. So, you know, Mark Scuddy and I are reluctant to get thrown into the fray because we don't see a lot of good things coming out of it for us. For one thing, and plus we are busy with our other jobs.
I don't have, when you said the management and the board are on the same page,
I think there's some challenges between the board and certainly some members of the board and management. And that's the underlying thing. There's just not enough trust and it doesn't seem to be enough traction to solve the problems that are identified. I could say, well, if you're concerned about wages and benefits, you can share with them what our wages and benefits are, or what we use as our sources, and say, well, compare your benefit package to Heber City's package and see how the numbers compare. Right. I don't have to do that. I give you the information, but that's one of the things that are the tasks in there. I can read a financial statement, but I'm not an expert on electric power company operations.
And I think that's understood. there's not a, this is a small attempt, a very small attempt, to simply try and
You cannot be effective in asking me what you're asking to do a smaller task to go around there for 30 minutes and come back. You cannot.
again, we're not asking him to go there and knock on their doors demanding information. Again, this is not what this is saying. And I think out of consideration, or again, for repeating this point, please stop representing this in that light. That is not what this is doing.
Well, your document, if you can read this face value, that's how it reads.
Commencing August 1st, 2014, and for the following from our city council gives full authority and consent to the supervisor manager to do all relevant financials. Nothing in here says he requires us to
to
go over.
dissuade Robert Linden close.
What's 24 months?
2 years.
Just 2 years.
Well, I know.
Why that number? Okay, the reason is because if House Bill 17 goes into effect next year, he has a year of preparatory time now to do whatever needs to be done to help enact that, and a year review afterwards to make sure anything that's enacted, if they have any questions or concerns.
What's the difference? There's nothing happening with
Well, that's not true. As it stands right now, it's a law. Nothing's been modified, nothing's been changed. Now, if it does change,
On the 15th of May next year.
that's right.
It's time to implement it, I think.
That's right. And nothing's been changed. As it stands right now, there is a law. Now, granted, it may change. Now, the sources I've spoken to said there has been no discussion about changing this whatsoever. So maybe there has been. But from what I heard, there hasn't. So, from my concern, why are we waiting to see if anything changes if there's already a law? Now, I would understand if this was being considered for the first time and no law has been put into effect. I completely agree. Wait till a law has been put into effect. Well, a law has been put into effect. So that 24 period is to give us a year buffer and a year after the fact. And also to not perpetuate this idea that we're trying to grant our city manager authority over to review this types of information for perpetuity. It's specifically designed to take that back when that time frame is over. So once the House Bill 17 is enacted, and we have adequate time to see that transition, we're done. We're out. We don't want Mark involved anymore.
What happens? Can I finish? It says here, compliance with House Bill 17 and equity between city employees and Heber Light and Power employees. The Heber Light and Power management is for the directors and the city council. I'll explain that to you. You want equity pay, same scale, same pay scale as the city?
No. That's not what this is saying. If you're not comfortable with the language, there's no reason it should be there if you're not comfortable with it. I have no problem striking that. It's just coming down to the issue of semantics and how that's interpreted, because there's absolutely nothing in here that's meant to be nefarious or misinterpreted in any way to be something that's misaligned with anything but to provide them as tools to succeed. That's it.
I think you go back to work meeting, rewrite this thing and make it clear the cases and the points that the council made, so we're not reading what we think it reads, what you're saying, Dennis, because if I read it, Robert reads it, Jeff reads it a different way, you read it a different way, it's not clear enough to anybody to read this to figure out what you're really trying to put in place.
I feel that's based on maybe I'm wrong, I feel it's based on assumptions coming into this meeting that this is meant to be something completely different.
That's why it should be done.
That's why it needs to be discussed.
And that's what we're doing. That's what these meetings are for. There is no requirement by state law to have work meetings. In most cases, you can resolve these conflicts in regular meetings. And that's exactly what we're doing, is resolving that.
Any further comments, Robert?
Yeah, I just want to say a couple of things. I know morale's never been low. But Heber Light Power, employees, management, whatever. It's never been lower. I had a meeting with employees one day, and somebody said, "You got to trust us. We'll get through this." And the employee said, "You got to trust us too." And that person went home crying. And the morale's never been lower. And I'll tell you, if we can't run that company in the ground, let them do their job. transparency here, because there's nothing going on at that company. They keep saying, these people, especially you, Tracy, yes, they keep saying, there's still things going on, you know, there's not.
That's,
There's not.
Then there's nothing to hide, right?
Excuse me,
There's nothing to
I'm
hide.
not
is there?
finished yet.
Sorry.
There's nothing going on over there. Only thing that went on was the problem with the chief financial officer. We already know about that. We've taken care of it. There's not things going on, secret things, that we are being transparent about. Well, that's it.
Everybody's had an opportunity to express yourself. Sheriff?
Mark, your comment about morale, I think that's important because that strikes a chord with me. It reminded me of about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. I had 6 police officers coming to my home, expressing how concerned they were about us removing Chief Rose. One of them in tears as well. And they said almost exactly what you just said. You need to trust the department. We don't need a new chief. Everything's fine. So what you just said resonates a great deal. And the reason it resonates is because it's a different situation because we have the ability as a city to directly, obviously, manage and make changes with the police department. But difficult decisions had to be made. And it wasn't because of any corruption, it wasn't because of anything was being hidden, but decisions had to be made at that time. And when I look back, and I can see the effect of those decisions now, our Chief Booth has done more in 1 month, and this is in no way trying to disparage our previous chief, but he's managed to do more in 1 month than what our previous chief was able to do in years. And that decision was delayed because of concern of morale, because of concern politically. But at some point, a decision had to be made. So I can respect the fact that morale is low at Heber Council. I get it.
But you do understand, you understand what.
I completely get it.
You understand the background.
Well, I'm going to call, the chair's going to call for a vote on this resolution. All those in favor say aye.
I
I
Any opposed?